What's going on, guys? Ida here, episode 12 of the FIFA 17 10-10 challenge, and today we are playing another game, and we have the same team as before because we've been doing so well with it. I don't see the point in changing anything to it, so into the game we go. Alright, this is this guy's team. Oh my god, he has a lot of different things. He has, I think that's Neon, Reed, Butland, Jagielka, Clichy, Fernandinho, Lallana, Gay, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Walcott, and that's Darren Bent up top. It's a strange team, but a lot of pace up top, same as last time. And I already don't like this opponent, mainly because he has a Chelsea badge and a Liverpool kit. Yeah. I mean, maybe he doesn't know how to change that stuff, but you'd have thought you would if you know how to set up a team in Ultimate Team. Oh, very close. As a, you'd have thought. You think they'd be able to use it. Oh, dear. I should have chip through balled that. I try not to chip through ball it as much as some people, just because you don't get, you don't get the first touch as well if it's in the air. Now, today, what I wanted to talk about was the differences in strikers that different teams might be able to buy this summer, specifically looking at Chelsea, because there are a lot of rumours about Diego Costa going to China or back to Atletico Madrid or wherever. And so there's obviously going to be rumours about who Chelsea are going to sign. I nearly got that then. And I just wanted to look at a couple of the players that maybe Chelsea could sign. First one is the obvious, which is a previous Chelsea player in Romelu Lukaku. Now, Lukaku is a player that maybe you could say is, at the moment, especially because I think he's still top goal scorer in the Premier League, he is probably the best striker in the league at this moment in time. But I would say in the team he's playing in, the games he plays against the better teams, his record isn't great. He doesn't score. Should have scored there. Doesn't score against the good teams that much. I watched the game recently where he played against Man United. I was going to say played against Everton then. Obviously he didn't do that. But I didn't think he really did anything in the game. Like, I think shots-wise, he maybe had one shot the whole game. Might have not even had any. I can't remember the stats. But it was either one or none. It was low or none. Because none is low, but it's actually nothing. But in terms of that game specifically, and there were other games I've seen him playing where he doesn't seem like he really does a lot for what his sort of bracket is and how well, how many goals he has scored this season. You would think in that sort of game he would be on top of it and be able to score a goal or at least hold up the ball and create some extra chances for teammates. But he didn't in that game. Oh, Origi, I thought that was in. That was, so close. Oh, very unlucky. Maybe if that was on his right foot, it would have gone in. But, yeah, in terms of his stats, Lukaku, statistically, from a striker, is great. Now, other aspects of his game, I don't necessarily think he is that great. Like, in terms of the goals, last 3 seasons, he's pretty much scored, 70 goals in the Premier League. May give or take, And for Belgium, he's got, I think, 50 appearances, maybe even more now. And you'd say in that, he is very experienced. But he doesn't show his experience in the way you'd think he would, because for how long he's been at the top level now. There has been times, especially previously at Chelsea, where you would think, or you would say maybe he has an attitude problem because they say, there might maybe an attitude problem because before... Oh, Trigueros! Oh no, Butland how did he save that? I should have finessed that. I just hammered it. But when he was at Chelsea, he did well at West Brom, fair enough. But apart from that, he didn't really warrant sort of the first team starting berth that he wanted, because he'd sort of demanded the first team berth, and you'd say that was maybe an attitude problem where he didn't, it's sort of a lot what you'd think a lot of the English players do, where they've not really done anything in the game yet and they want everything. Now, if you look at what he did after that, where he decided to move away, you could say that his attitude is actually pretty decent, because it takes a lot of balls to leave a club like Chelsea and move somewhere else and try and sort of forge your career somewhere. In that sense, his attitude is spot on. Moving on from Lukaku, because I've sort of gone 50-50 there. He would be a great signing for Chelsea. And I think in terms of the manager that we have, you'd say out of the players how Chelsea players performed last season, how is that not a free kick? My controller rumbled, which means that the players connected. How is that not a free kick? You'd say with Conte, he's probably the right man for the job in terms of maybe sorting maybe if there is an attitude issue there, you'd say he was probably one of the best guys you could have to weed that out from a player. Now, next player that I was going to look at is Alvaro Morata. Real Madrid player, he's been at Juventus. Now, he is a player that's got to be a free kick, like Lukaku, who's been on the bench and he sort of wants to be the main man. But obviously Real Madrid have Lukaku. At the time, Chelsea had Didier Drogba. Now, in terms of Alvaro Morata stats, I did look it up. I didn't realise, in terms of total appearances this season for Real Madrid, he has actually played 35 games. Believe it or not. 35 games, and he scored 16 goals. I thought he played about 20 games and scored about, 10 goals maybe, which is a good return. Just for 35 games is a lot more than I thought. Now, that's obviously not going to be starts. That might have been all subs, because I know the other day he scored a hat-trick, but that was off the bench. And so, most of his appearances will have been like that, because they've got Benzema, they got, Ronaldo, Bale, all of those. But how I see it is, Lukaku's doing well in the Premier League, but he's very experienced for his age. But in the games where you'd expect him to do a lot better, he doesn't. Now, Morata is a player who's got Champions League experience. He has Euros experience, same as Lukaku. But the ability to perform in different leagues. So he performed in Italy and he's performed in Spain. If you look at his stats for Real Madrid, that you've got to say he performs pretty well for minimal time on the pitch, and he's still got 16 goals, which is more than a lot of players have in the Premier League that play week in, week out. So you can't really say that he's not got that in his locker where he can perform in multiple leagues. And you'd think with that he has a lot more in his locker in terms of his sort of on pitch intelligence and the way that he can step up into different ways of playing. Now, he's also played under Conte. Rigi, I should have taken that closer. He's played under Conte in... I think he played under Conte in Juventus. I might be mistaken, but I think he did, unless it was with Allegri. But there is that sort of way of playing with Juventus that Allegri's kept from Conte's style, which Morata knows how to do. And so maybe with that, it's one of those where he knows how to play it, and it's something that he'll be able to do. Now, that's Morata out the way. Next player we have is Andre Silva. Now, this won't take long, because I knew he was a sort of under-23 player. I didn't realise he was only sort of 21. And his goals to games are good for Porto, but it's his first season in playing for Porto's first team. And he's got fairly good return from his games played, but you'd expect that from a Porto player, considering Porto basically win the league every year. It's like Dembele for Celtic. He's a player who you'd sort of think would score a lot of goals with the talent he has in that turd of a league. You'd think he would get a lot of goals, and he does. But you'd think that Andre Silva should get that return as well, and he has got, let me check, he's got 20 goals this season, I think. No, that's the wrong player I'm looking at. But he's up and around that sort of mark for the season. I should have just shot there, but Origi, there we are. I know it's a sweat, but I needed it. We need to change this game a bit, and I wanted to look at the stats. Where is it? Porto, yeah. Oh, it's his second season for Silva, but he's got 20 goals in 37 games in all competitions, and this is a rage quit. So I'm going to keep talking. The last player I was looking at is Andrea Belotti. He is on fire this season. He has been playing for Torino. He's played 62 games in Serie A and got 35 goals. Now, both of these guys, he's 23 for Belotti, 21 for Andre Silva. Lukaku is 23 as well. And then Morata, I think, is 24. So they're all pretty young as players. The players out of those, Morata, the quoted sort of figure for him is around 50 to 60 million. For Lukaku, it's sort of maybe 80, low 80s, high 70 millions. You know, that's what Everton are going to want. And then you look at Andre Silva, I've heard quotes of around 50 million. Now, Belotti, I've not really seen what their quotes are, but Torino are going to be hard to get a player out of because you've got the sort of systems where they can give them to Juventus for maybe cheaper than they normally would, and they can sort of co-own and all that sort of stuff, so maybe he'd stay there for another year, and that's what they probably want, is to keep somebody like Belotti. Now, out of the players that I would want for Chelsea, it's difficult to say. It's a toss-up between Lukaku and Morata. I think Silva's a bit too young and has only really played one full season. Belotti's played sort of 2 full seasons, but again, he's maybe a bit inexperienced, and he's only 5'11", which for a striker that Chelsea want to play as, like Costa, you want somebody big, strong, tall, and wide. Morata's big and strong, and he's tall. I don't know whether he's that wide and he can hold up that ball. And Lukaku is all of those, but the difference between Morata and Lukaku is the sort of on-pitch intelligence and the experience in Champions League and high risk and high intensity games. So for me, if I had to pick Morata or Lukaku, I think money-wise and experience, I would have to go for Morata, which a lot of people might say is the wrong decision, but for me, I think it's the better decision. Anyway, I've been rambling on. I wanted to finish that off. I thought I'd finish it off in the game that we had. But if you look at the points we've got now, we have 12. We're getting promoted. Can we get the last one in the next episode? And then hopefully we'll get the pack opening, which will be interesting to see how many players we get in that pack opening. So that is going to be the end of the episode.